time for women to be able to pursue their own happiness.
There remains only one group of second-class citizens in this country. Women!
It's not our business to tell them what they should do with their freedom, but it is our business to make sure that they have the right to try.
Anna, Jeff in Las Vegas, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you? Good evening from England.
Oh my gosh, I love England. I haven't been there in a few years.
Yeah.
But... Well, thank you.
Well, I was doing pickups for this movie about 2 days before the lockdown, and it was 2 years ago. And I haven't been able to get back to the States because we're not allowed to come still. Cool. This pandemic, this last few years has been tricky, huh?
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today about the Charming the Hearts of Men. And your character, Grace Gordon, returns home to the South. It's the 1960s, height of discrimination. She's gone from a life of privilege to a virtual pauper. So what are her options right now?
Well, I think she might have been quite naive and selfish and didn't realize how hard life could potentially be, and comes back and finds herself in a predicament where she can't get a job, she hasn't got a man, she's divorced, and there's very little opportunity for her out there. So she has to rethink her life and think, how does one survive and look after oneself? And she wants to get a job and sees how very difficult it is at that period to get a job, because there were very little job opportunities.
And working with Kelsey Grammer, he plays a congressman in the movie, and there's a dramatic side to him. I mean, most people know him for his comedy, but he can really pull out the dramatic side, can't he?
Yeah, he comes from a great theatre background. Kelsey's done so much theatre, and he's a very accomplished actor. He's of course very, very funny, but I think he likes just as much the drama. He was wonderful to work with. He always had time offset to run lines if he wanted to. I gave full permission, saying, if you ever hear any English accent, please give me a little nudge.
And of course,
correct me.
And this is based on a true story, putting women in the Civil Rights Bill. I mean, this was a very progressive idea for its time.
It was. And I knew very little about it. I can't believe it was only back in 1964 that women didn't have equal rights.
And this is also...
we were shooting out.
Yes.
It was my first time in the South, so we were shooting in Madison, Georgia. I brought my daughter out with me. I went straight from, I think I just finished Marcella, so we had 2 weeks in between to go from very cold, wet, rainy island to a boiling hot south. I think the day I arrived, it was about 98 degrees. And there's a scene, she's wearing a big, very heavy, very warm fur coat. So the environment was completely different, but I got to experience wonderful Southern hospitality and wonderful food, and people were very kind and generous to me.
And this is a difficult time and place for a romance for Grace, isn't it?
It is, and I don't think she sets off on a journey to find love. She sets off to have a man basically help her and pay for her, because she didn't have any other option, but she ends up consequently falling in love. I don't think that's what she set out. I think she's given up on men. There's a line and she says, I don't want another one, because they've always let her down, and she's very, she's judged for being a divorcee at that time, and she's brave, and she's very determined to find a job.
And this is a period piece, so you'll have costumes and sets. Does this really help bring out the character when you transform yourself back to somewhere like 50, 60 years ago?
Well, yeah, the quality of the costumes, because there wasn't mass commercialism at that time. So you would have 5 dresses opposed to 20, but they were all, the materials were so, I love vintage clothes. I collect vintage clothes. So for me, that wardrobe was a treat. And I adore hats. I've always worn hats since I was, my mummy said I was obsessed with hats when I was about 2 or 3 years old. So that period fitted me very well. But it's all about the undergarments in this period. You want the triangular bras and the kind of I don't know what do you call it, a fancy version of Spanx that would pull in the waist, and the stockings. It's all about the undergarments that create that beautiful shape. And thank goodness it wasn't huge high heels.
And finally today, tell me about working with the director and writer, S.C. DeRose.
Susan DeRose, it was her very first movie. I think anyone who takes on any movie is very brave. The hours that we work, and I've been doing this for 30 years, so I kind of expect the 16-hour days. But she's got wonderful taste, and her attention to detail on the set was incredible. She was over all of the costumes, and she was a wonderful person to work with.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for talking to me today. What a wonderful drama. I enjoyed it immensely. And before we go, I have to say, I am such a fan of Land of the Lost. I love you in that. So I hope it's okay to tell you. You're just wonderful.
Oh, thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you. I really like that film. It was a really wonderful experience.
Thank you so much, Anna, and good luck with the film. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.